Okay, so the next project we're going to be working on is a box. On that, a slab box. Here's a little bit so you can kind of see what we're looking at. This one has a creation on the top. Kind of a cool thing. So the slab box, notice on the inside it's made out of slab construction. So you roll out slabs to get your first part of this one, so you can create those. There is a size requirement for you. I'd like it to be no smaller than 5 inches. This one is a rectangle. That's kind of a cool sort of a thing. So it has a larger side here and then a thinner side over here. We'll put that guy off to the side. I have some others. Here's another rectangular one. This one is my snake box on those. So we have snake coils and stuff on the side, little snake eggs on the top. This one is also a rectangular box. Once again, you kind of see that we have the slab construction going there. And it makes for nice even walls and a pretty cool container as we're working through that. So that was a rectangular one. One more to look at. Let me snatch this one right here. This one is my spider box. So it has, whoa, holy, gotta move real slow here. So this has a little bit of a spider on it on the top. This one is a square box though, and I think that students find a lot of times a square box is a little bit easier just because you don't have to make sure that you have 2 sides that are identical one way, 2 sides identical the other way. It's just all the sides are the same size, right? And so a simple cube a lot of times is a little easier. As such, I've prepared for you, and on the tables I think you'll find just a template like this. This is 5.5 inches by 5.5 inches. If you want to make one a little smaller, you can, but I really don't want anything smaller than 5 inches by 5 inches on those. You can make a rectangular. Now, if you're making something rectangular, you could make it a little bit smaller on the side, maybe 4 inches or something like that, 3.5. But if you go much smaller than that, then the problem you have is like this one is being able to stick your hand inside to be able to make sure things are sticking together. If it's really, really small, that makes it a little bit more difficult, okay, on those. So a lot of people, like I said, they just like having the template, and I put some on the table. Really pretty easy. Measure out 5.5 inches. The cardstock that we have in the box that's over there, the cardstock itself is 5.5 inches by 8.5 inches, so I made it pretty easy to cut if you need to cut a new piece or something like that. I also have some up here. And so let's go ahead and proceed with that. We are going to work with slabs. And so I've rolled out some samples, some things so I could make things a little bit quicker. You are going to need, eventually you're going to need 6 sides on that one. You need a top, a bottom, and then 4 sides going around it. And so that's kind of a deal. And so if you notice, I rolled out this one here. This one is big enough for a 1 on those. So I'm going to go ahead and, by using the template, let's get a tool here that we can use. You can just take the template, set it on like that, and then once you have the template, you can just draw and cut around it using a needle tool. And that makes it real easy to control the sides. You don't have to do a lot of measuring on those. And then these pieces here are just some scrap pieces. You could utilize them in the surface decoration that you're going to make, or you can just recycle them. And you can put them into the buckets or to the recycling machine, into the pug mill. The nice thing is if there's still people working on a wheel, these will be just a little drier, and so it'll make it really easy for the clay to become a consistence on that one. Okay, so there we got one. Let me pull another one over here. You'll notice the thickness on these ones is pretty good. This one is kind of, oops, I hit something. Oh. Not sure why that wigged out on me. Maybe it's just the computer. Oh yeah, cool. Good to know that it times out. That's not cool. Ah, it's back. Okay, sorry gang, that was kind of weird. All right, so I'm gonna cut some of these ones here. I do need to have 4 sides to begin with. So I got 1. There's a 2. That's good. Put those off to the side. Here's going to be a 3. If I line that right up like that, I can cut this side like that. All my extras. Oh, so I need 4. I need one more aside to make sure I have the cylinder. Remember when we made our mug that we made a cylinder and then we put the cylinder on a slab of clay to make the bottom? Well, we're going to do a similar sort of thing with this one, except our cylinder isn't going to be a round thing. It's going to be a tube that is squared on that. So now I have my 4 sides, my 4 pieces on that one from my template. Pretty cool. And then I can just put that template aside and use it for another purpose. Now I would also like a texture. Here's the deal. If you have a texture on the surface, it hides imperfections. And so if you put a texture on it, there's a better chance of your project looking good. So let me grab a rolling pin real quick. I'll move that around. Okay, so in putting the texture on here, this is just the one of the things that we have over there for a textured surface. This is the cobblestone one. So I just roll that on there, and then all of a sudden we have a cobblestone texture. And so I'm going to create, I need all 4 sides to have a texture on it. The bottom, not so much. The top I probably will as we go through it. So texture is going to hide imperfections. And I figure that's a good thing. Now when you roll these out, it'd probably be wiser to roll them out, then carve the template out. I kind of did that all backwards and stuff, but I think it'll still work out okay for me because these do stretch just a little bit when you roll them out. And so now we got my 4 sides with the texture on them. That's helpful. And ready to go. All right, let's get that out of the way, at least for the time being. Okay, so we want to fit these pieces together so they're kind of like a picture frame. And so if I'm taking my slabs and I'm putting them together in this sort of a fashion, I want these edges to kind of match up. If we put them straight on this way, it doesn't have as good a seam and it's harder to push them together. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to take, if this is a cross view of this is smaller so I can see it a little bit better. And if I have something that's cut at an angle like this, right? And then I had another piece, the other side of it was cut at an angle like this, about a 45-degree angle. Cut that down like that. And so we can see that we have a 45-degree angle on those. If I take those and then I bring them together like that, it's going to form a nice edge. And it's really easy to take that piece like that joins together, and for making sure it stays, to be able to just pinch it on the side like that. And so it's kind of a hidden seam rather than just running them up next to each other. The thing that most people end up doing sometimes, or when they're thinking about it, is they just want to run the ends into each other like this. And what happens is you don't have a good way to hold them a lot of times and to put them on. And then also you have this side right here that does not have a texture on it, where this one does and this one does over here. So if you make that kind of picture frame sort of a box on that, so these pieces are going together like this, it'll make it a little bit nicer for you. Okay? All right, so that's what I'm going to do. So in order to make it like sides of a picture frame, if I take the needle tool like this and I put it at about a 45-degree angle, and I cut down right on the edge here like this. This is the hardest part. And then I turn it around the other side, and I do the same thing, and I cut this direction here. That's going to make a 45-degree one side of a picture frame. Let's see if we can show that here. So over here we see that you have about a 45-degree angle. This one over here is about a 45-degree angle. And so you want all of your things on there. This is the outside here, right? And then your inside is over here. And you can see the angles on the cuts right like that. And so that's what I'm going to do with the rest of those. We're just going to take them here, cut them at an angle. I'm terribly right-handed, so I got to rotate those around and cut that at an angle. That's 2. Now, when you're making your box, I want you to be thinking about this. We're going to have a little bit of a theme with our box. That's why you probably noticed that mine had some various creatures on it. What I would like you to do is I would like you to think of something that might cause fear, or that people might have a phobia of. Like some people really have a phobia or a fear of spiders. I think it's called arachnophobia on those. And so that's kind of a deal. We want to, and so that's, you create an arachnophobia box. Some people have a fear of snakes. That's why I made the snake box. That's kind of a cool deal. And mine were mostly creatures and things that people were afraid of. Some people are afraid of mice. I don't know. One of my earliest memories, this is kind of one of the personal asides, one of the earliest memories I have of childhood on that was my mom was screaming. I was like, what is going on? And so my mom's screaming, and so I go to the source of the screaming because I don't know what was going on. And so I come into the bedroom, and my mom's up on the bed, you know, and she's just screaming on that. And my dad has a broom, and he's like wielding it like it's a samurai sword or something like that. And my mom saw a mouse. And so she was afraid of the mouse, and so she was up and she was screaming on the bed, and my dad was trying to save her from that vicious mouse and that sort of thing. So a little bit of a phobia of mice on those. Don't know if it was a true phobia, but that was kind of a deal. So what I want you to do, here's my theory behind this box, is it's a phobia box. And so it has to do with some fears that you might have, or that you at least know of. And you can put your fears in that box, and you don't have to worry about them ever again. This assignment originally came as one of the psychology teachers was covering a section on fears and phobias. And so I thought, well, that'd be cool. We can make a cross-curricular assignment. Now, I don't know if they still cover fears and phobias in psychology, but this is kind of a way to maybe deal with your fears. You can put them in the box, you never have to worry about them again, and that sort of thing. One thing you'll notice is that I'm scratching these edges, right? We still need to score and slip the edges that go together, and this does take a little bit of time using the needle tool to do so. This is just one of the slabs that we have to do this. Now, I would recommend this. If the slabs are just a little bit more stiff, a little harder, it makes them easier to work with when you're making a box. These ones I rolled out earlier, and so they are a little bit more stiff on that one. if you're creating this particular assignment, what you may do is roll out your slabs, put the texture on them, and then just let them sit there and let them dry for the class period. Then put a paper towel between them, and then stack them on top of one another, you know, so paper towel in between here, and then stack them on the end of the class period, another paper towel, and then it gives them a chance to dry out a little. Put them in a plastic bag so they don't completely dry out, but that way it'll make it easier for you to manipulate them. If they're really soft, they're harder to work with. Now this tool I have here is one we make in ceramics too. It has 4 little pins on it, and so I can scratch a surface just a little bit faster on those. Hey, would you guys hold off your conversations? Thanks, appreciate it. And so I can kind of cruise through this sort of thing. I'm sorry we don't have, you know, little scratchy tools for everybody, but like I said, generally what happens in ceramics too, if people are working with a lot of slabs or construction, we go ahead and make these little things here out of some glue. This little is hot glue, and then the pins are just kind of set in there like that. But it does make for demo purposes going a little bit quicker. If you wanted, you know, you could get go to the dollar store and get a comb. You know those combs that stab your head? I think I mentioned that before. But you can just cut off a section of those that has the teeth of the comb, and you can have that as your piece that you're using for your stuff on those. So you can make this scratchy tool. Okay, so those are all ready to go with the scratchy tool. I have some slip. Now I put in last week I had tried to fill some of the containers with slip. I have actually a bunch of it in a bucket. I was trying another technique, some slip casting things. And so I have a lot of slip if you need extra slip on that one. And so I'm just taking this one here and going to put on some slip on the edge of all the pieces. Let's go over here. Boom, 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 boom. These brushes actually work pretty good. These ones that are just flatter like that, they're good slip brushes. And I can have this working out pretty sly. We can leave that on there because the idea is to have the slip decompose the clay just a little bit. That's why we also scratch it, so it makes it easier to make it decompose. So that's kind of cool. Now remember to roll out clay. I didn't show that on this particular video because we've done that already. But we do need to make sure you have a cloth down to roll it out, otherwise it sticks to the table, right? Okay, so I have my 2 pieces that I'm going to join together, and I just kind of push the seams together here, and I start to hold them, and I start down here at the bottom, and then just push them together on an edge like that. And so that's kind of cool, huh? Now, these ones are still a little flimsy. And so they don't want to stay up. If you need to have your neighbor, your friend hold one while you're putting them together, that's cool. We're here to try and facilitate that sort of a thing. Now the 1/4 of an inch rule still applies. It needs to be at least 1/4 of an inch, or no bigger than 1/4 of an inch on those. Let's put this one over here. Okay, and so this one was 5.5 inches. And so now I've created a tube, right? A rectangular tube. And kind of just pinch those walls together, just like this, where you can just come along and kind of squeeze and pinch and pinch and pinch. And it works really good. Your fingers kind of go in this natural shape like that, and so when you pinch them together, it should stick together pretty well for you. Okay, so that's the rectangular tube. I'll move that off to the side for just a second. And then to put that on the bottom, I need another slab. I need this guy. Then this is going to come here. Now this is not a perfect square yet, right? And so what I'm going to do, let's see if I can slide this off a little bit this way. You guys can see what's going on. And so this is sitting here, and these are kind of the corners. I got to get it so it actually sits in the middle of this. And I can take and I can work the sides a little bit so that they're working pretty good. But I'm going to take and I'm just going to put a little bit of a mark here, and I can draw around them like this, just so I know where the sides are. But remember, I want it squared, and so when I make the scoring on this one, I'm going to probably true it up. Okay, so I put those on there just as a guide. Whee! Move that over to the side. And so that's my guide that I have for making this on those. Let's see. Maddie Jessup and Pravina, you have secret messages here. Okay, so you can see the drawing that I made on here, and they're not exactly straight. So when I put this on, what I am going to do with the scoring marks is this is the outside, so I need to scratch the inside, and I'm just going to go just to the inside of the line, but I'm going to try and make it so that this is kind of straight. And if it's easier to just take a ruler or something and draw more of a straight line so you know where you're going, you can do that. Okay, more scratch marks. Once you get to the bottom on the box, it's a lot more stable, and that's a cool thing. It's a little bit easier to handle. It's a little bit easier to do the various constructions. Now, you probably want to be thinking of what sort of a sculpture or thing that you want to have on it. I would like it to be some sort of a sculpture-esque thing. It could be something that is more cut out. I could take a slab like this, and I could cut something out and then stick it on the side. That's a possibility. Or you can sculpt something as well. There's some press mold things over there that you can use, and that's okay as well. So lots of possibilities. Now I do have it as a phobia box. I've also expanded that out to a personality box. If there's a certain personality or something like that you're wanting to deal with, that's kind of a cool deal. Let's put some slip here. Boom, 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 boom. Slip is good. All right. And now I do need to scratch the surface of the box. And so, move this off to the side for a second. Move this over. Okay, so the sides. And so I just need to make sure that when I'm scratching these surfaces here, I need to make sure that I'm holding them so that I can put those scratch marks on there. This is almost too big for the camera area. And then this box might be, just like I said, a little bit thinner, but we'll make it work. And so holding the edges while you scratch them, that's a good deal. And I think you can see with this clay being as flimsy as it is a little bit more difficult to work with. Okay. All right, so let's move that off to the side. Bring this one back in here. Now the hard part is going to be flipping this thing over. Let's see how well it works. I'm just going to kind of rotate it. Whoa, holy smokes. There we go. If it's a little bit more stable, then it flips over pretty easy. Now I can come back in here and I can just kind of smooth up the sides, because that was all falling all over everywhere. Fortunately, it stayed together on the sides, so that was good. Oh, I see. Now, if you wanted, like I said, if it's a little smaller, the walls probably need to be a little bit thicker. And I'm going to take these ones, I'm just going to hold them like this, and I'm going to push them down a little bit. I'm going to hold this wall like this, push it down a little bit. This one needs to come out a little bit. Hold it and push it down so that you can make those sides even. Oh, okay, here's the deal. I want to put some extra support right in through here. Now you remember those pieces that I cut off the side when I made that angle pot? Well, they happen to have a nice angle that will fit right into the corner. And so I'm just going to take and I'm going to put some slip here like this. Notice I didn't necessarily score it. But if you take and you put these guys in like that, they fit right into the corner because it has a little bit of a 90-degree angle on it from when you cut it. And if you push it into the corner with the slip like that, and then you can hold it so it'll stay, it'll provide extra support in the corner where you need it. Okay? And so, once again, just a little bit of slip on the side like that. Taking one of these little corner pieces that I cut off on those, sticking it in the corner. That one got a little bit shorter. Now they do have a tendency to get a little short when you make them, but that's okay. We just want it to support in most of the parts. And then just take that and then push it in. And it should blend and add the extra support you need on that side. There's another one more on this side. And so then we can just take this here like this. I'm going to hold the outside as we bring that up. And then that just pushes it in and gives it more support. Gives it some strength. And the slip's kind of important. You want to make sure that the slip's in there so that fills in the edge that you're looking for. Okay, another one of those. Put that in here. And then just kind of lightly press it in so it creates an extra support on the seam. Okay, now as we're building this, we're always trying to make it a little bit more square on that. This one has a little bit of extra clay on it so that I can cut that off. Eventually I'll cut all those edges off. I did want to introduce this tool. This is a cool tool. This tool is called a paddle. And so if you take this and you just lightly tap your seams and your edges, you can make it so it's a little, working around the camera is kind of tough. You can make it so it's a little bit more squared on your sides. Also, we can take and push in here. And so we're just going to tap our sides as we go around. And so that's how you can square up your box, and it doesn't really damage the pattern on the sides. You can just utilize it to make your box more square. Now we got two of the, or we got 5 sides done on that already. And so that's pretty cool. Now for the lid on this box, what I'm going to have to do is I really need to let this sit so it's a little bit more firm on that one. But what I'm going to do is, now that I have this box, I can kind of lift it up and move it around, right? That sort of a thing. But I'm going to invert this, and I'm going to stick it onto the lid. I'm not going to do it right this time, though. And so what I am going to do is show you what we're going to do. And so I can have a texture on this one, on the lid. And so I have my box the square I want. And then so taking the slab, this is the reverse version of it. Is like that. And then on the underneath side, so back up over here, I can just take the needle tool and I can draw around it on the bottom side so that I have your needle tool over here again. And so I'm just going to take this, shove it around to the other side here, and then just draw along the edge. Draw along this edge here. This one was flush. And so what happens is, then I have a drawing of where the things are. Let's move this guy out of the way. And so now I have a drawing of the pieces here. I have here, this is an edge. This one was an edge over here. And then this was the other edge over here, like that. And so I can utilize that to make the lid. Now, and I can cut those off. I'm not going to make this, I do need to put a texture on this, but we'll pretend for right now that I have a texture on it, on the back side. Now I want to have this lid squared as well, so I got it mostly square. But also when the lid sits on the box, we don't want it to slide off. And so we need to put something in the corners to hold it still. So let me bring this mousy guy back here over here on that. And so you'll notice in the corners of the lid, there's these little pieces that stick out a little bit. So when this is sitting on top of the box, like this, it won't slide around. It'll stay in place. It won't move from side to side, that sort of thing. Those little pieces will hold it still, will hold it in place. And so what I'd like you to do is you can just come back and find an extra scrap of clay. And if I then took that extra scrap of clay and just sliced it like that, and I took 4 pieces, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And then we're just going to put those eventually into the corners like this. Now I need to account for from here, I need to account for this distance away from it. So I'm just going to kind of put them where I think that it should be. But I want to leave enough room so that the box itself will fit into this area over here. And these pieces are just, like I said, you're going to take and you're going to score them. And then you're going to add a little bit of slip to them. And then you're going to press them down and like that. And that's how you're going to be able to put those pieces in. Now, if you test it on that and you notice that it's not in the right place, you can still move these and have them stay. So mine's sitting right there. I could move this in quite a bit like this and press it down there, and it's still going to stay. And so you can make some adjustments even after you put the scored and slipped pieces on there for your lid. From here, like I said, I'm going to make some sort of a sculptural sort of a thing. So then this is the inside, this is the outside. And you can put something on the lid. You can put something on the side of the box if you want. You'll notice that the lid, even if like this, you look at it, starts to bend and to bow a little bit. So I'd probably store it here till it gets leather hard. That's kind of a thing. You want it to be leather hard so it doesn't bend and bow. The box that I just made is real flimsy. It's definitely not leather hard on those ones. So I'm going to let it set up before I put the lid on it, before I finish that. But if I am making a sculpture on the lid here, I can just utilize this and do my sculpting here, let that box piece over there do its drawing and be ready to go. That's the basic construction we have for our box on those. Let's bring this guy back in. I will eventually move this over to the sides. You notice we have these little pieces out over here. Eventually I'm going to take my needle tool and I'm just going to cut along those edges to remove those extra pieces, and then I can also use the paddle on that edge to try and smooth it out as well. And so that's a box. This is a pretty big box that we got going here, and the walls are a little bit thin. I believe if you do about 1/4 inch, you'll be okay. The thickness of these walls should be enough to support it 5.5 inches. If you wanted to make one 5 inches tall, a 5-inch cube, you can do that as well. Like I said, you could go narrower. You can have it, maybe 5.5 inches by 4 inches or something on each of the sides, or by 3.5 inches would work fine. That makes it a little smaller, easier to handle on those. But no, the basic thing is that you got to have one of those sides be 5.5 inches long to 5 inches long on those, and you should be okay. Hopefully that is it. Good luck. Let's see how she goes. Let's see, I gotta do this. Stop.